not the people who didn't like the movie, but the people who said it was overrated. Those people, they were probably they had different expectations of the movie, right? And so I tried to give them grace, but then after watching the movie for the third time and then still being just as compelled as I was the first time I saw it, I was just like, okay, these people missed it. Because the first time I was like, well, you must be less educated. For you to not appreciate a movie like this, you would have to be less knowledgeable on the culture and the music and the history and the spiritual warfare that goes on in this film. So the Smoke and Stack brothers, and they kind of represent like a yin and a yang. They're a thread in the movie, and once that yin and yang is broken, that's when the climax hits, and the movie, like, the story begins to the plot thickens, the climax rises, but like the structure of the characters begin to fall apart, and the characters have to scramble for their roles in the story. He sees himself in Slim a lot. Delta Slim, the OG character, the comic relief character of the film. He sees himself in him a lot, and in a lot of ways he wants to be like him, and in some ways he doesn't. So like Delta Slim is kind of like a peek into Sammy's future, right? Just like in the film, you know what I'm saying, people had all different forms of money. You know, Annie, the juju woman, you know what I'm saying, she was collecting whatever kind of money she was collecting. Then they were at the bar at the juke joint, and the sharecroppers were getting paid on wooden coins for credit. You know what I mean? Like, and that was their currency. They had to live off of that. They had to live on credit. You know, and so yeah, you know, what are you trading? What are you basically trading? You leave in Mississippi to go to Chicago for what? You know what I'm saying? You got plantations here, you got tall buildings over here. Pick your poison, right? You know, Smoke was about his guns, Stack was about his knife. You know what I mean? The business lessons, there was a lot of negotiation going on. You know what I mean? Smoke teaching the little girl how to negotiate. Yo, don't just settle for the first price. You know what I'm saying? Come with a better price, and you may get more. You know what I mean? Don't just take whatever's given to you. You know, what's significant to me was when Bo, the Asian husband, he was like, well, we ain't got one color. You know what I'm saying? We got the color red. So that was significant to me. So with that, so I looked up what does red represent. You know, so red, they were going to paint the juke joint was going to be trimmed in red, right? And so red represents passion and love, danger and violence, power and dominance, rebellion and rage, and seduction and temptation. You know what I mean? Exodus 12:7. They are to take some of the blood and put it on the sides and tops of the door frames, where they eat the lambs. Yeah. So yeah. So that stuck out to me a lot when you know they said they only got red. That's the only color they got. So they had to trim the juke joint with red. That's what stood out to me. Smoke and Annie's relationship. You notice Smoke had the blue hat in the very beginning, and Annie, you know, Annie, her whole outfit, everything about her was blue. As far when her character was introduced, she had on a blue outfit, and her house was painted blue. You know what I mean? Now blue has some spiritual representation to it, but psychologically, blue represents peace and calm, truth and communication, intuition and wisdom, protection and healing, and devotion and faith. So kind of their marriage, so to speak, as far as the characters are concerned, their marriage kind of blends and intertwines. You know, now it is important to pay attention to her colors throughout the film. So in the beginning of the film, she wears blue, and by the time we get to the juke joint, she wears all black. You know what I mean? Black is a very strong, powerful color. You know, and she was significant to the story in the juke when the juke joint at that act of the film. She was very significant to that part of the film. You know, she was very significant to that part of the film. So it's no surprise she was wearing all black in that act. And then towards the end of the film, she wore all white. You know what I mean? And we know white represents innocence, purity, sanctification, so on and so forth. So yeah, because she was such a pivotal character to the story, it was very important to pay attention to the colors that she wore. Like what I took from that was she was saying that character was saying, you know, you have to respect the spiritual world. You know, and yes, the mojo bag could not save their baby, but at least it saved him. You know what I'm saying? It saved him for a greater purpose. You know, yeah, and she's the only character to call him by his full name. Actually, like I didn't even until maybe like the second or third time I watched the movie, I didn't realize Stack's real name was Elias. And the only person, like, he mentions his real name one time. I may be mistaken, but he was the only one that mentioned his real name. Like, and that was after he made his transition, quote unquote. And then, you know, she spoke Creole to him. You know what I mean? Which was very important to the historical context. You know, Cornbread calls out for her Louisiana Bayou bullshit, right? And of course, we all know that the French owned Louisiana, right? And then they transported slaves from Haiti to Louisiana and throughout the Mississippi River, right? And so a lot of Haitian Creole influence is in the all up and through the river and the Delta as well in Mississippi. So it was no surprise that character knew Creole. You know what I mean? That was very key in the historical context of it all. Bones that she threw out, they kept the bones. Every time she threw the bones, it kept saying the same thing. You know what I'm saying? It kept saying the same thing. Sort of like in the Avengers movie when Doctor Strange was trying to look at all the possible outcomes, and he kept coming back to the same outcome. It was just one fate, right? And And then that leads to the philosophical question, like, do we have free will, or is our fate determined, so on and so forth? Chicken or the egg, right? But she knew her fate, and she knew what needed to be done when it needed to be done. So like I said, she was very keen and very pivotal to the story and to the survival of the characters.